Okay, so now we have half of our building accurately drawn. Um, my line weights aren't great because they're all the same. This line and this line are very minor, so I might make them, let's say, a yellow. These lines here, I'm going to make green, and this line need to be hidden lines. And I'm going, my only hidden line right now is a yellow line. That'll be fine for now. That might actually want to be a green line. Actually, you know what? I'll just change that right now. Change that color to green, and there we go. I'll leave this one cyan for now. Now, I have half of my building drawn. I'm going to use the mirror command, MI. I'm going to select half of my building, and my mirror line is going to be here. So I click down on a spot along that center line, and I'm going to click on another spot on that center line. I'm going to tell it not to erase my source objects because I want them to remain. And there's my building. I can delete that line. I'm going to extend these out, just my baseline out just a little bit further. And now I can place my dimensions and double check that I have everything right. So let me just draw this in here right quick. Go back to my dimensions layer. Now, dimensions are annotative. So I want to make sure that I set my annotative scale. And the annotative scale for this drawing is 3/32 right here, the plot scale. So we're going to come down here and set this to 3/32. There it is. And now we can place our dimensions. I always use linear. Well, I shouldn't say always, but for the most part, almost always use linear. There will be a time when we use aligned on this drawing in a second here. So what I'm going to do is dimension my overall 120 foot building width. I'm going to dimension, I believe that's D. I can't remember if that's D or G. That is G. D is up here, so I can dimension D from there to there. Did I get that spot? Yes, I did. And it looks like I need a little bit more room, so I'm gonna stretch these down. Still a little tight, so I might move this one up just a little bit. There. And I look back at my list and I see that my overall building width is 120 feet. G is 116 feet 9.5, and D is 113 feet 1.5. So I've drawn it accurately. I'm now going to come in and place K, which is 17 feet 3.5, so that's correct. I'm going to place B, which is the bottom here, and that is 21 feet 7.5. And H is not here anymore, because again, it is where the bottom of the panels meet. So for H, I'm simply going to do a linear dimension. I'm going to click here, and I'm going to drag up in the direction I want to go, and that is simply 24 feet 2. And I can type that in and place that dimension. And you can see here, that's where that dot is. It doesn't exist in this drawing, but we are going to put that dimension down because that is where the design is dimensioned from. And finally, we need A over here, 10 feet 9.5, and K, that's when I'm going to come up here. I could do this several different ways. I could go to my home tab and go to my annotation tab, and linear, I can click the down arrow and I can find an aligned dimension, and I'm going to click here and here, and I'm going to get 29 feet 4.5 inches for J. So now I know that my drawing has been drawn accurately because all my measurements, all my dimensions that I put down match the catalog numbers that I pulled and I used to draw this building section. And the only thing I'm missing now is a roof slope triangle. So I'm using 12 feet and 2 feet because this is a fairly small drawing, so that large of a triangle will look fine. So I'm going to go up here to my text. I'm going to say 12. I can also get rid of that line, I don't need it. Copy that down to here. And there we go, a 2 and 12 roof slope. Clean that up a bit. So that's my entire drawing right there. Now, to draw the section, or the wall section I should say, so we drew the overall building layout or building section. Now we have to draw this section here. So this is based on this. So to get these other dimensions accurately, all I'm going to do is copy this entire drawing down here. I can get rid of all my dimensions because I will be doing the other drawing at a different scale. And now I have a good start for my second drawing. All of this is drawn nice and accurately. So now it's just a matter of adding detail to make it look like this wall section. However, pay close attention to these dimensions in the cloud bubbles. These need to be placed and their dimensions need to be accurate. If they are inaccurate, I will take points off in the final grading. So there's a cloud bubble here, there's a cloud here and here. You have to figure out the elevation here where the eave comes down, and let's see, is there any others? I believe those are the only cloud bubbles. The other dimensions that you must place on the drawing are A, B, D, G, H, J, and K. So just like we did in this drawing, we are going to replace these letters with the actual dimensions. You can dimension them down to the floor, or you can draw them, you can figure out how to draw them with some sort of break line dimension like this. You would basically just explode a dimension and kind of draw a break line in there to do that. So one last thing I'm going to go over that should help you draw this wall section is, first of all, we will be placing this on a portrait 11 by 17, and given the amount of paper space that we have, we do not really need these breaks. And in fact, if you look at these breaks in the columns, everything lines up, so they really haven't taken any room out of this drawing. They've just not shown whatever's in between here, but we don't really need that. That's not necessary. However, to fit it on the page, we will need to break it here and here to show the ridge where J and K meet, or where the two rafters meet as well. So to do that, what you can do is you can come to the second copy of your drawing, and you can kind of look at where these are cut. What you can do is draw a line that represents that cut. Let's say that's our line. Then I'm going to come over here to where the two rafters meet and draw a line maybe like that and like that. And then I'm going to come over to here, and let's see, I just need to get a little bit on this side of the ridge and maybe this much on this side of the ridge. Let's compare that to the drawing. Yeah, that looks good. And now what I can do is I can trim using these sets of lines, and I'm going to trim all of that. So now I have these three sections, and what I can do is I can move this section. Actually, what I'm first going to do is, let's say, extend out to there, this line, just so I have a base point. That way I can align my top. Let's see if this I might need the nearest snap, and do something like that, and then move this one from here to maybe there. And now I have the 3 sections that I need for my drawing. I can go to an 11 by 17 portrait, find this section drawing, and this is why I say put it on paper space early to figure out how big it's going to be. I believe this is a 3/4 inch drawing, so I'm going to set my viewport scale to 3/4, and you can see that I've included too much. So I am going to have to reduce the size of these. So I'm going to have to move this over a bit. Let me look at my example. I just need to get a purlin on this side, so I'm going to move this over a little bit. And let's see here. I think I should have enough there. Trim that back up. Also trim that back to there. And again, I can move these. Probably shouldn't have trimmed that line, but I'll just eyeball it for now and get these closer in. So now when I go to my drawing, you can see that now I'm starting to get the whole wall section to fit. So this will be a tight wall section. So give yourself as much real estate as you can. You know, stretch out your viewport, you know, as far out as you can. Every little bit helps. And again, try to squeeze this stuff down to just the bare minimum that you need to do your drawing. And from here on out, it's basically just adding, oops, let me find this, adding all of these details. So these plates here and the bolts, your wall girts, your panels, your bolts, your concrete floor, so on and so forth. Don't forget all of your dimensions, as I said. Actually, let me do that right now. I'll do this A dimension and I'll show you how you could build that. So I would come in here to linear dimension on my dimensions layer. This is A. I obviously have not set my scale properly, so I'm going to go to 3/4 of an inch equals a foot. Then I'm going to place my linear dimension for A from here to here. That looks a lot better. Now, if I want it to look like this, where it's a break line with an arrow, I can do a few things here. I'm going to select it and explode it, and now everything is individual lines. I can get rid of that. I can move this line up to here. I can move my dimension up to, let's say, there, and I can use the break line command. I have to think about where I want this to draw. That looks pretty good. That came out at a good scale. Otherwise, I might have to scale that a bit. Put that down at the bottom. Maybe stretch it up a bit. Maybe move that up a bit. And then maybe I'll use a multi-leader. I'm not going to put in any text. I'm just going to take that, explode that, so I can get the arrowhead, move the arrowhead from there to there, and I've got a good looking facsimile of this sort of dimension here. So